This week on Ridiculously Bored. Large Fry, I don't know who you are. You're a but I don't know who you are. Thanks for calling me out, you and don't try and twist that in any other way than what it's actually meant to be, you sick that I may have to pull out from about 10 minutes ago.
Maybe pull out's a bad choice of words.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Hey, everybody. My name is David Michael.
And I'm Michael Carter.
And we are
Ridiculously bored.
All right, we are back. Episode 15. How was your week, Michael?
The week was good. First, let's get through some carryover from last week, though.
And there was a lot of carryover from last week. In fact, This was the first time in a while where we had at least a few days in between the release of the last episode and then recording this episode. So, and last episode was somewhat of a controversial episode, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. If you haven't listened to it, pause this, go back and listen to last episode, unless you just, you're boring and you don't want to laugh, but go back and listen to that. You and I have taken a ton of shit in the last couple of days over some shit that we said in the last episode. So let's talk about that. I feel like we need to get our part of the story out to the world and defend ourselves.
Yes. So let's talk about first when, we did our, if we had a warning label for us, what would it be? And so Mighty Eagle said to me that she thinks mine should have been uses comedy to deflect. So in turn, I responded to her deflecting that comment, and she's like, thank you for proving my point. So I feel that was kind of almost like one of those no-win situations. So, but for me, that was just one I got for me. You, on the other hand, people lit you up for some of your comments, and I got some texts too that I didn't even tell you about. I'll tell you about them after you talk.
Oh, awesome! All right, well, I hold on. Let's go with some of the comments that I got from friends and I don't even want to call them fans because they weren't fans if they were lighting me up. The Donkey
fans
Show.
Of mine, maybe.
Let's talk about the Donkey Show. And we have some Google, master's degrees out there, and people went and looked up Donkey Show. And apparently, if you search for Donkey Show, it's they're saying it's an urban myth. Now, if you remember in last episode, I never said that I went to see a Donkey Show. I said we were offered for the price of, I think it was $200 to go see a Donkey Show. And while it sounded like a good idea at the time when I was probably 15 shots of tequila in, my buddies talked me out of it and it never happened. Having said that, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was or wasn't an actual thing. If it's not a thing, then we probably would have either gotten robbed or worse had we decided to take that route with the Donkey Show. So
you'll end up in a bathtub of ice with one kidney.
Yeah.
So with you talking about people with Google degrees and things like that, that leads to some of the other questions we got about last week, which was, why do you hate people so much?
Oh, God, I don't know how to defend myself without getting myself in deeper. You know what? The last couple of years, it seems like just the world has brought out the worst in people. And, and I don't want to go political, and I won't, but, you see people straying farther from the center, right? There's kind of the, hey, let's all get along kind of center area. And then there's the extreme one way, my ideas are way better than yours. And then there's the extreme other way, my ideas are better than yours. And they just don't agree. And over the last couple of years, we've just kind of gone down that path where you're starting to see less and less people in the middle willing to compromise, and then more and more people just taking extreme views on stupid shit. And then you do something like you have a podcast or you post an opinion on Facebook. And for every opinion on Facebook you post, there's 1,000 people that'll agree with you. And then there's 1,000 people that say that's the dumbest thing they've ever heard in their entire life. Right. And I'm just so tired of it. And you almost can't avoid it. Like I can't, other than to like shut down all social media, there's really no way to get away from it.
Right. So you said that there's people on the extremes now. Up Drink of the Week making an appearance. Wouldn't you saying I hate everybody last week be what some might consider an extreme?
No, I don't see where you're going with that.
Oh, okay. That's just me then. I apologize. Forget it then. And the 4 or 5 people who texted me that same comment.
I just there's just so much stupidity, and I just want us, and you know what? Maybe it's me. Maybe 3 years ago, I had a much higher expectations of my fellow human beings, and that was unrealistic.
Right.
And what I'm seeing now is everyone's kind of true form. But I don't understand why we can't have a conversation about something and not see each other's side and go, okay, you know what? You have a point. I like my point better, but you have a point and I agree with you.
Right. Gotcha.
So the problem is that right now, and I have this problem with some family members too, where I'm like, they say something and I'm like, yeah, I don't agree with that. And here's why. And before I can even say, here's why, I get well, you're just wrong and you just don't understand it.
Right.
Like, okay, so now you're going to gaslight me because you don't want to hear what I have to say. So we can no longer have a conversation. You know what I mean? I can't say my side, you say your side, and let us agree to disagree. It's just you say your side and then I'm wrong. Right. And I'm just like, all right, I'm done.
Well, it's just like in episode 4 when I thought being on a boat fire was life or death and you said it wasn't. You didn't say to me, maybe I can see your point, I understand. You were like, no, that's not life or death threatening. I was in a plane that I peed myself when it was going down. You might not have said that pee yourself part. I might have added
I'm
that.
pretty sure I did not pee myself, but right. I probably should have.
So one other thing, my friend Large Fryer, who I went to college with, he reached out. First of all, got to give him a shout out. He said he loves the show. He listens every week, can't get enough. The other thing he pointed out to me, though, and I don't know how I missed this. I am disappointed in myself for missing this. He said that you get disgusted for peeing in the shower, but you ate that probably a bowl-filled ice cream last week. But you won't pee in the shower.
Large Fry, I don't know who you are. You're a dick, but I don't know who you are. Thanks for calling me out, you prick. First of all, my favorite ice cream in the entire world that I have not had for probably 20 to 25 years gets shipped to me. I don't care if that shit was up somebody's asshole. I'm going to try it.
I got some popsicles coming to you next week then. All right, so the big question is, did you have any other of them?
No, I didn't. I didn't. It was so underwhelming, to be honest with you. I was so
it's underwhelming because half of all the toppings were gone. You were just having frozen ice.
The crunchy toasted almonds, and ice cream doesn't, when it melts and it kind of gets frozen again, it's no longer creamy. It's like mushy, like slush. It just wasn't, right. It wasn't pleasant.
So before we go into a story that you had from last week that you said you missed, and a story I realized I missed from last week that I want to tell, I want to go into couple of minor technical corrections. So Star Wars and GQ, who are the guys I went to the Peep Show with, who are, as I think I mentioned last week, derelicts. They were all over me in relation to the story. A couple things. One.
Apparently you didn't get all the details right.
A couple. I told them, I'm like, I got the fucking gist of it right. It was called horse gag, not horse blow. So that's one. Two, it appears that night we actually went to a few of these places. I didn't remember that. Yeah. And one of them, he said that Star Wars actually somehow was able to stick his head under the glass and wave to us.
Oh, Jesus.
So that was one. It was his head or his hands, one or the other. I don't remember which it was. And we did actually tell the girls we were going out, but we told them we were going to play pool. So those are a couple things from last week. So you lied. Yeah. And the best part about them being derelicts, when Star Wars was like, oh, yeah, he's like, you can't really find that video on the net. but here it is. And he sent it to me.
So he saved it.
Yeah. I don't know where he got it. I don't know if it was on a fucking thumb drive somewhere in his house, but he was like, and here it is. So, yeah.
I think we need to do a better job of either that or we need to hire a fucking attorney, because some of the shit that we say on the show is going to get one of us in trouble.
Statute of limitations.
I don't know if it's legal to send that shit, but whatever.
I'm not, for the record, I'm not telling him to stop sending me them, but we're just not sure if it's legal or not. There's two different things. All right. So you said you had a story from last week that you said, oh, I just realized I had a missed opportunity to tell the story. What was your story?
You were saying how much you you were saying that shooting a nail gun is one of your bucket list items.
It is.
And I have probably 3 or 4 of them. And my wife reminded me that we were building a what the hell is it? It's a fireplace mantle. So I have a fireplace, and I wanted to, and the mantle above it is just like, painted sheetrock, and I wanted to make like a nice little wood kind of mantle to go above it, because everything in Arizona is fucking sheetrock. So my dad had only been out here probably a few months at this point in time, and we still had, all of his tools. And he gets really excited when he gets to use his tools, and don't try and twist that in any other way than what it's actually meant to be, you sick fuck. So I'm like, all right, you know what? It'll be a fun dad and son project to spend a Saturday building this mantle. And I had already kind of in my mind drawn it out. I drew out a plan for it. And I'm like, look, this is what we're going to build. We went to Home Depot. We bought the wood. I bought the stain for it. Got back here. And so I got all my tools out and set up in the backyard, and I'm cutting the wood to all the different specs and stuff like that. And he's got this nail gun that he wants to use.
Well, hold on. Before you go on. So now you have worked with your dad growing up. You worked with him, and you did jobs, right? So
yeah.
So you've had experience working with him. The experience I've had working with my dad, you haven't told me this story, but I can guess where it's going to go. Because the experience I had working with my dad, when he would be like, oh, why don't you come to the car? I'm going to show you how to change a spark plug. It ended with him basically cursing me out in Italian and telling me to get away. So, okay, go ahead. So your dad's outside with the nail gun.
It's like that scene in A Christmas Story where he says, "Oh, fudge." Right? No. So anyway, so I'm doing all the work, right? And my dad is so preoccupied with getting his nail gun to work. My nail guns are pneumatic, right? So I have to plug in a compressor, turn it on, it fills up, put a hose to the gun, and then I can use it, and then it shoots the nails, right? Well, he's got this one that's battery operated, and he's so excited to use it because he bought it brand new, and he hasn't been able to use it in a couple of years because of, I don't know, the pandemic, whatever. So he gets his tools out, and I'm doing all this work, and I'm like 2 hours into cutting wood and sanding and getting everything so that it's ready to be stained so that we can put it together. And he can't get this nail gun to work the whole time he's messing with it. So I'm like, whatever, I'm going to go take a break. So I go inside, grab a beer, and just kind of cool off for a little bit because it's in the middle of the summer and it's like 100 out. And next thing I know, I hear like bang, and I'm like, shit, what the hell? So I run outside, right? And I guess he got so mad that he threw this brand new nail gun that wasn't working against like the side of the house, and it exploded into like 100 pieces. And the battery's here, and this is like,
well, you didn't get shot with a couple fucking nails too while doing it.
And my wife was freaking out. She's like, oh my God, like he's gonna hit the dogs or something's gonna happen. And I'm like, Dad, calm down. And he was just so like absolutely distraught. Remind you, he has Alzheimer's, so it definitely affects his ability to kind of remain calm in most situations. And he had to go like put himself in timeout, and like he could. So I ended up doing this entire thing by myself. I think he may have stopped for like maybe 10 minutes to like help me put some stain on some of the wood, but other than that, I did the entire thing by myself. So me wanting to do like a fun dad-son project turned into this absolute nightmare, all because of a friggin' nail gun.
Yeah, the nail gun that I wanted to play with. Now he's broke one of my potential toys. Thanks for nothing.
That was his. I still have 3 of them.
All right, got you. All right, so my story isn't in relation to that kind of stuff. My story is in relation to the Peep Show. So I could not believe I forgot this story, and I remembered it later. About 2 years after that, I was dating a girl, and she had said she had never been to one of those type of places. So I was like, oh yeah, I have been to one. And I'm like, look, it was kind of underwhelming. Like, but I went, I said, just so I could say I could do it. I went to it and stuff like that. So she's like, all right. She's like, there's this place on the west side of Manhattan that I really want to go to. And since you've been to one, why don't you bring me? I'll be a little bit more comfortable that you're there, right? Because it's not like, oh, let's get a couple girls to go to it. So it was called the Vault.
I know where this is going.
Right? So it's called the Vault. No, I don't. You're not. This is going to shock even you. I'm telling you. So we go into this place. Women get in free because it's a fucking sausage party. So guys have to pay a shitload of money. I don't know, $20, $30, $40, whatever it was. We go in and it's a bar to start.
So there's a cover at a strip joint.
It's not a strip joint. Let me get to that part.
Oh.
So we go in and the center of the place is a bar. Normal bar. You wouldn't know you were anywhere else in New York City. Like you would be
you're
like,
in a swingers bar.
Nope, not a swingers bar. I do like your guessing though. I do like you playing the game. So thank you for that. If I had a nail gun each time you guessed, I'd shoot one off, but I don't have one. You have 3 though. I'm just pointing out. You can go get one if you want. So the middle of the bar is just a normal bar, and then there is 4 or 5 doorways into other rooms. Solid walls. You can't see into them. You go through the doorway. So she's like, well, the other stuff that's kind of here is behind these doorways. So I'm like, all right, let's go. So we go through one. And while I know I've Googled dicks, because I sent you some, the guy who was standing at the door, as soon as you walk in, the guy's naked. Standing at the door, he has like a leather vest on. Fucking dick out, and he's just stroking. And he's like, hey, how's it going? Jesus. How you doing? He's like, welcome. He's like, welcome to the Vault. First time here? And I'm like, yeah, it's first time here. And he's like, oh, well, not stopping stroking the whole time. He's like, well, you enjoy yourself, do whatever you want. He's like, over there, you can get tied up. Over there, you can get whipped. And he's like, the other room we have on the other side, you can go through there. And you can watch other people. You can have people watch you, and still going on. And he's still stroking. And then he's like, and then you can get a drink afterwards. So he goes to my girlfriend at the time. He's like, you mind if I finish right here while you're watching? And she's like, no, go right ahead. So the guy just fucking finishes jerking off there, and then he's like, okay, well, enjoy the rest of the place. So again, as I've said before, I love anything different. I have no issue with kind of the one-time experience type thing.
That's some different shit.
Yeah. So we were walking around, and because there's not many women there, it's a lot of guys. They are fucking following her like the Pied Piper, man. And so so much so that even if I put like a hand on her ass, just like playfully, it was like 50 eyes looking at us. Like you could just feel it. So that was another one of those really weird experiences. But I'm glad I did it. Like, I'm not going to do it now, but I'm glad I did it back then. So yeah, it's something I could not believe I forgot to tell that story.
Yeah. So all I'm thinking, and I'm probably all the guys in that place were thinking, is if this was her idea to go there, she's a fucking freak.
My wife listens to this podcast, David.
Yeah.
After that, we went to church. We said 2 Hail Marys and we went to bed.
I'm kidding. She's not a freak. Although
I
she
feel weird though. I think I locked eyes with the dude as he was finishing. That was a little weird to me. All right.
All right. Moving on.
All right. So let's go. Let's move on. So this week, how was your week?
This week, this was a shitty week. Not because of anything other than, you have a busy season. This happens to be a pretty busy season for me at work. So I've got a ton of stuff going on. And in fact, we've had to postpone recording this episode for a couple of days just because we've both been too busy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, nothing exciting about that other than just normal daily life taking over. I did start a new YouTube channel. I haven't officially launched it yet, but, I've noticed that there's a lack of videos and content on people that own trucks, particularly the kind of truck that I own. So I decided to start making some modifications to it, and then I filmed it all, and now I got to carve it up into some videos and put it out there. So again, it's one of my hobbies. I enjoy it. Ironically, I don't enjoy cutting this video up, but I do enjoy filming and making things look cinematic. This video is not bad, but the podcast is it's a lot of I have to, if we film for an hour, I have to watch an hour of us and then kind of make sure that all the dialogue works and all that good stuff. So it's a little bit of a chore, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, so everybody, when they're listening to this, remember that David considers it a chore. Enjoy the episode. So,
why am I always the asshole? That's what I want to know.
Why does David hate human beings? That was the question asked to me. So this week,
I think I said I hate idiots. Did I say I hate human beings?
You might have said people. We
People
can go
in
back.
general.
That's what's great about this being on recording.
You know what? I'm going to double down on that. People are fucking idiots. All right, moving on.
Comment down below, anybody who's interested. So,
Yeah. Like, subscribe.
yeah. All right, a couple things. So, for me this week,
Yeah.
I'll try to go in relatively day order. I go see my mom the other day, and they have a schedule on the elevator. When you're going up the elevator, you can see what their kind of day's like. You know, music at 2:00, art at 3:30, this kind of stuff. So the movie of the day was 50 First Dates. Now,
I feel like I live that with my dad.
but yeah, exactly. That's a movie about somebody losing their memory and can't remember things, and they're playing it in a assisted living that is geared towards people with Alzheimer's. So I thought that was a little bit fucked
Somebody
up.
thought that was hysterical.
Somebody did not think that one through. And I told a couple of the boys this, and El Guapo says to me the next day, out of nowhere, he's like, "What's tonight's movie, Memento?" So like,
Another movie about someone losing
even
their
when
memory.
I read it, I'm like, 50 First Dates? I'm like, isn't that the movie where the guy has like memory loss? I could not believe they were playing that there.
Yeah, it's actually Drew Barrymore has no short-term memory, and
Yeah.
she meets Adam Sandler, and then every time he goes over there, it's like they've never met before. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So that was
real
one
cute
thing.
movie.
And then at some point in the last week or so, you threw down the gauntlet. You said, hey, let's try a Beyond Burger, right? Neither of us are
did.
vegans. As a
I
matter
saw
of,
it. It sounded disgusting, so I'm like, we gotta try this.
neither of us are vegans. As a matter of fact, on episode 14, I said, fuck you, vegans. And the next thing you know, we're trying Beyond Burgers.
Right after
So,
he said, "Fuck you, Philly."
Did you try it this week before I talk about mine?
I did.
All right.
I did. After you texted me that you had bought them, and I'm like, all right, now I got to do it. I got to ante up. So I immediately went out that night, went to one of the places here. I think it's called Sprouts, and they have, of course, they had it. So I bought them. In addition to some normal burgers, because I wasn't going
Backup
full on
plan.
that. I just wasn't. I couldn't do it. I needed a backup plan. So I ended up cooking the regular burgers and the Beyond Burgers, and I gotta say, the Beyond Burger was pretty fucking disgusting.
See, here's what I thought of it. I thought it was not comparable in taste. Like, I didn't think it was like, oh my God, this is a great burger. But I thought it
Didn't
wasn't
taste
that
like
bad.
a burger.
And the other thing that I thought was interesting was the texture. It textures just like the way it's cooked, when it's done, everything, the way it burns on the outside. It came off like a burger to me. The one thing I did
You're
think
not
though,
cooking good burgers then.
the one thing I did think about when I had it though was it reminded me of those shitty hot meal lunches in school growing up.
Yeah,
Those
the Hockey
burgers. That's
Pucks.
kind of what it tasted
Yeah.
like. I'm trying to have my kid eat a little healthier because he's one of us, and because of that, like he's gaining some weight. So I made them for him, and he puts barbecue sauce on it. He had no idea. So for him, it's
Really?
going to be a good substitution because he has no idea. I tried it. I was
Until
like,
he watches this episode and
Yeah.
then realizes what a dick you are.
well, or was because it'll be older. He'll be older. I don't let him watch him yet.
Oh, no, he'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, he has asked me, what's the dress for the show and how can I find it? So I wouldn't be surprised if one day he brings up how I nicked my nuts with a razor
Yeah.
out of nowhere. So
I will tell you this though, before we move on from the Beyond Burger, I did it up like a full-on burger. Like I put it on a bun with lettuce, tomato, ketchup, pickles, and it wasn't that bad. If I wasn't eating a really good burger next to it, it probably would have passed for something burger-like. I didn't like the consistency at all. It had the consistency of like a hot dog, like, stuff that was
Well,
put in a
that's exactly what
blender
it
and
is.
then, yeah, they were put in a blender and then kind of reconstituted back together and into a solid form. So that for me was probably the toughest part.
yeah, see, I did it with fried onions, sriracha. You'd be proud of me. Sriracha on it,
Yeah.
and then ketchup. And so same thing. It like the taste was masked enough where look, I would eat it again. I don't know if I would necessarily go out of my way to get it, but I don't think I would be like, no, fuck it, I can't eat that. I'd rather eat a shoe. Like, I don't think I'd do that.
At this point, it's not that much less calories than a hamburger.
It's the cholesterol, though, that's important for somebody like me.
Yeah, but it's, you know, if you're talking about weight loss, though, you're not going to get there eating Beyond Burgers. So at that point, you're putting so much shit on it to make it taste like a hamburger, then why bother? Like, just have a smaller patty and then, you know, have a normal burger.
So if I had 6 of them, that's bad. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, like I said, as long as you're not comparing it side by side against like a real burger, I think you could probably do not too bad.
All right. So following up from my question a few weeks ago to you about Cologuard, right? I asked you if you ever seen anything on that. Have you seen any of the ads for this product, Roman?
Yes, I have. I get them all the time on Facebook.
Yep, that's where I see them the most.
Instagram, and I also get a very similar company. I think it's called Hims, like HIMS. Same thing. You know, they're pushing like, you know, male testosterone replacement / hair follicle replacement type stuff, like guy stuff. Like, you know, if you're going bald, we've got some stuff for you. If you're
can't get it up, that's what you were going to say.
If you have some ED issues, then they've got some stuff for you. Why I'm getting targeted for that? Well, other than probably I'm prime age for that type of stuff, but yeah, it's a little bit weird to me that I'm getting targeted for that because I'm not searching for dicks on Google like you are.
Who said I was? Yeah, no. So like I'm seeing all those ads. So a couple things. So again, I have no problem with like, oh, what actually are they selling? So I click into it. So now that's all I'm going to get. And look, eventually I'll probably subscribe to it. Who knows? But right now I don't need it, thankfully. Knock on wood, pun intended. So the thing that I thought was interesting, and I'm not asking you to ask this, and I'm not asking anybody else to comment on this, but what they called the relationship package was 8 wipes a month. I guess it's a wiper that you wipe on your dick. I don't know. It's supposed to help you. It's like a ball wipe? Well, basically, I guess a ball wipe, a dick wipe. I don't know what it is, but it's a wipe. 8 a month is what is the relationship package. So some people are going to say, well, that's not enough. And other people are going to say, well, that's way too many. But I just thought it was an odd number to have. Well, I guess that averages to 2 a week. But I know for me, being married, those will start building up in the drawer. If I'm getting 8 a month.
I am turning around and running away from this conversation so fast. There's no, I'm not doing it. My kids listen, my wife listens, not having this conversation. By the way, I'm very happily married and have no complaints. I'll just leave it at that.
Yes, because you're subscribing to Hims and Roman.
All right, next topic. Before we go on, I did have one thing that happened this week that fucking just absolutely pissed me off. We were talking about pets last week.
Yep.
You got your kittens. I won't use the word that you used because I had to bleep it out fucking 5 times in the last
Which
episode.
I don't understand. We talk about dick, cock, balls, ass, and then you have to bleep out that one word. Another word for cat, you had to bleep out. I don't understand.
The problem is how it's used, right? If you're talking about a pussycat, you're fine. Okay. If you're referring to female genitalia, you're not fine. So it's the context in which it's used and the context in which you used it as a joke was female genitalia. So I didn't want to risk it. Here's the deal. It doesn't take much to get canceled in today's cancel culture.
That is true.
And, you know, I mean, it could be one thing and you're gone. And then it's like, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah. So a little behind the curtain, we won't talk about the story, but we did tell one story at one point on one episode that YouTube said, no, this is coming down. And
I had to cut the whole thing out. Yeah.
And thankfully, you put up the episode a day or two before to let me see it before we go live with it. And in that time, they took it down. So we realized we found what the problem was and we took it out.
Yeah, it was.
So I think you're just gun shy now from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not only that. It's you know, it takes a lot of effort to put these episodes together. So to you know, and by the way, the rest of the episode, last week's episode is our best performing episode yet, right? So to have done all that and then put it out there and then have it ripped from us would have sucked. So I just not willing to take the risk.
No,
at some point in time, maybe if we have a bigger following and, you know, you have a little bit more weight, you can kind of exercise a little bit more civil liberties. But right now we're small fish in a very, very large pond.
Yeah. So we're a bunch of pussies is what you're saying.
See, that I'll leave in because the context is perfect. And you're a dick for saying that. And I can leave that in.
All right, go ahead.
Although the part about the guy stroking it, I may have to pull out from about 10 minutes ago.
Maybe pull out's a bad choice of words.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. So
we have derailed.
Yes, we derailed.
This whole episode is ridiculously bad advice from David and Michael. Go ahead.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. Where was I? Dogs. So I don't know fucking how this happened. I have a pair of $250 Apple AirPods. And I use them religiously all day long because I spend most of my day in meetings on Zoom calls. And for some strange reason, I had left, you know, the AirPods come in a case here. It's this case right here, right? So AirPods come in this case and they always stay in that case when they're not in my ears. Never, ever, ever take them out. Okay. At some point between me stopping work at like 6 o'clock or whenever it was, and me going downstairs at like, I don't know, 10 o'clock to grab the case to bring it upstairs to charge. I usually keep it on like a charging cradle while I sleep. My dog got a hold of it, and I don't know how she did this, but she got a hold of it off my desk and was able to dislodge the two AirPods from the case. And she proceeded to chew on the AirPods, and what is left of the AirPods, I'll see if I can get the camera to focus on this, but
no, they're not focusing. You might need to just throw a photo in. There you go.
Not much, right? This is one earpiece right here, completely destroyed, and the other one looks equally as bad. But so my dog basically did $250 worth of damage. So I had to order new AirPods. Still haven't gotten them yet,
which is unfortunate because the dog was just trying to listen to an old episode of Lassie.
Ironically, one of them is still stuck in her stomach. So I had Tupac going on, and I was playing Tupac through her stomach via Bluetooth. It was awesome. No, I'm kidding. That didn't happen.
So we are very late in the episode, but what is the drink of the week?
The drink of the week is, I was lazy today and didn't want to make something. So places that brew beer are called breweries. All right. There's a new thing now for places that make cider. They're called cideries. This one happens to be called Ace. It's actually a fairly popular one. This is a pineapple flavored cider, and it's absolutely delicious and not too sweet. And it's just got the right amount of pineapple flavoring in it. So I'm a big fan of ciders. That's my drink of the week. Ace pineapple cider. I
actually like ciders as well. That's one thing I actually would drink once in a while. So did you say breweries and cideries and go through that little very teacher-like approach because you didn't want to hear people give you shit again like the bourbon scotch whiskey thing? Is that why you did that?
No, I'm mansplaining to you because you're usually an idiot and don't understand half the stuff that I say.
Ridiculously bad advice from David Michael. All right.
You know what? I'm just going to double down on this whole I'm an asshole thing. So I'll be the asshole. I'll be the asshole. You'll be the comedian. And maybe it works.
When you're doubling down, it's supposed to be something at risk, not a guarantee. All right. So I got one other thing. Last week, I might have said that USPS is a piece of shit. And to be honest, I meant it.
Yes.
Because they lost the package. Oh, sorry. The package arrived a day late. They didn't lose it. But because of that, they missed their guarantee, and I got a full refund on my money. So while they're still pieces of shit, at least they follow their rules, which is nice.
So that's a perfect segue into the one crazy question. And I know I'm jumping the gun here, but it was just too good of a segue into it. And you came up with the one crazy question, but I'll ask it. How much money would you spend to try and be funny?
All right, you want me to go first?
We know it's at least $110, right? Because that's exactly what you spent last week.
Well, that one wasn't even trying to be funny. That one was trying to be nice.
Yeah, I guess it was.
The joke was on me though when it came as fucking liquid bags of unfrozen ice cream.
You did throw a photo of dicks in there, so I don't know that it was entirely not trying to be funny.
Yeah, but like Ray Lewis used to say, you pay me for Sundays, the rest of the week is free. That photo is free. I paid to get the ice cream to you.
I don't know. You did say you spent like $3 in ink trying to get that thing printed.
Hold on. Let me correct that. Ray Lewis says, you pay me for Monday through Saturday. Sundays is free.
Got it.
Because he loved football. Sorry. Wrong order there.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't think of a specific time that I've spent a bunch of money for a joke, but I have no issue with, I could see myself spending a little bit of money on a good old fashioned joke. Where I have spent some money though is by sending letters randomly, and it's not a lot of money. It's a stamp, but 55, 60 cents now. But I will randomly send a letter to people that's just like, you open it up and it's just like, fuck you. Or
friends, of course,
yeah,
right?
Or things like to friends. So I've done that a bunch, and I actually just recently sent one to Baloney not too long ago, and he wrote back that he thought he'd be funny. He said, "My daughter opened the envelope, and she's old enough to read, right?" So he's like, "My daughter opened the envelope." One of the other guys, Cheech, was like, "Why the fuck would you let your daughter open an envelope from me? Like, knowing that it was from me, you're the one who made a mistake there." And he's
This
like, "No,
is the same guy who let his son open a package from me that I told him, don't let your kids see it.
Yeah, but that's because I forgot, to be fair. So yeah. So I haven't really spent a lot of money on stuff that I can think of. Hopefully something will come to mind, but what about you?
Well, hold on. So how much would you spend? I mean, if it was good enough, I would probably spend a decent amount of money if I thought that the prank or joke was going to be funny enough.
I mean, I think a couple $100 is easy. Like if it's a significantly big, worthwhile joke. Like as an example, if I was, I would have no issue buying one of the boys a ticket to someplace we weren't going. So if we're all like, "Hey, we're going to Vegas, I'll give you your ticket," and give them the ticket, and their ticket goes to like Ohio, I would definitely do that. Like I'd have no issue with something like that, and that would be a couple $100. But nothing that comes right to mind. But now I'm going to play the part of David. Now, why is this question so crazy?
You're the one that asked it.
I know, but why did you let it go?
Why are you
then?
throwing it back on me? Why did I let it go? Because I'm not the freaking FCC. I'm not into, slapping an explicit, parental advisory lyric sticker on things. I don't approve shit for this show. We just throw it out there and see what sticks.
All right. So how much would you spend? Like, what kind of number do you think?
It depends on who, and it depends on how funny it would be. But I would probably spend between $500 and $1,000.
Wow.
If it was good enough. And I'll give you an example of not something that I did, something that actually a famous YouTuber did. His name is David Dobrik. He's actually pretty famous because he's got this show where he does these 4 or 5 minute clips and he releases them, and they're all, basically pranks. And he was able to play a prank on one of his friends. He's got this group of people that they all hang out with, and there's guys and girls, and he played a joke on one of his friends that said, "Hey, you know what? Would you make out with this girl?" And he was like, and she's pretty attractive. So he's like, "Hell yeah." He's like, "All right, well, would you do it blindfolded?" He's like, "Yeah, I'd do it blindfolded." So they blindfold him, and then they get like the oldest, ugliest guy in the group, and he makes out with that dude for like a minute and a half, and they just go at it. And he thinks he's making out with this chick. They pull the blindfold off of him, and he wants to vomit. Like it's that bad, right? And it actually ended up, that prank went a little bit too south because I guess legally he didn't have permission to make him make out with a dude. So there were some issues with that. Anyways, about 6 months later, he goes to him and says, "Hey, I want to get your permission. Do you give me permission to try and prank you again and try and get you to make out with that dude again?" And he's like, "It's not going to work. I know you're trying to do it. Of course, I'm not going to fall for it again." But he's like, "Sure, whatever." Right. So a couple of months go by and this dude gets a call, and this show has become pretty popular. So they all get calls all the time from, hey, you guys want to do a sponsorship? Do you want to do a commercial for us? You know, you have a recognizable face. We'll put you in the commercial. So they create a fake media company, and they call this dude, and they convince him that they're doing a TV commercial for, you know, the sausage links with the Sasquatch. I can't remember what the name of the brand is.
It's a beef jerky thing, right?
Yeah, it's like
Jack Links.
Yeah, Jack Links. So they convinced him that, hey, that we're representing Jack Links and we want to do a commercial, and we're going to get you in a room, in a bed with a bunch of female Sasquatches, and you're going to, you know, look like you're having a good time with them. And so he thinks it's totally legit, and sure as shit, they get a film studio, they rent out a film studio, they got cameras, they got lights, they got everything. They have he meets all the girls beforehand. They all go back and get their costumes on, and sure as shit, the dude comes out dressed like a female Sasquatch, and they end up making out on the bed again. And it was, I mean, they spent probably upwards of $20,000 to $30,000 to pull off this prank. That was some sick shit.
Yeah. See, and that's why people hate some of these YouTubers. For exactly
well, they have money
like
to
that.
burn. I mean, you get a couple, 100,000 subscribers, and people start throwing money at you, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do with it. I'm just going to spend it on, shit. They were giving away cars for the longest time. They, just buy a car and give it away to their friends because they have all this friggin' money. They don't know what to do with it.
So if anybody's interested in kissing a Sasquatch, let us know and we'll organize it. We'll put it on our channel.
Or sponsoring our channel.
Yeah, that's true too. So
any cideries out there?
Yeah, cideries. Why don't we talk about the two winners from last week? We didn't have one winner. We actually ended up having two because
we had one winner, but you were too much of a dick, so you made it two winners.
You and I couldn't agree on the terms of what was considered the winning comment.
No. I explicitly laid out the terms in the episode. You didn't listen to the terms and wanted to fudge them a little bit because somebody got close.
Do you think I want to listen to these episodes? So what happened was you, the first person answered, and I thought a person answered, and I thought they put enough of the right comment that they should win. And his name was Franco Salandra. He commented and he said it was episode 2 and 7, and it was which is correct. And it was the horror show for the hat part of the contest.
Which is not fully correct.
Right. My view was it was good enough. Like, we're not, as I said to you when we talked about it, we're not fucking Jeopardy. We didn't tell him to put it in the form of a question, or this isn't Wheel of Fortune, and he said an in the middle, and that's why he lost.
Your view is wrong.
A little bit later, Richie answered, and he doesn't have his last name here, but Richie answered, and he said it was the Telluride horror show in episodes 2 and 7.
Which is correct.
Right. And so your view was Richie should win and Franco should not. Correct. So I said, I think that's pretty stupid. So I agreed to match. Actually, I didn't even agree. You told me.
I said,
stop bitching.
Why don't we do, or throw out some money and we'll do two. And
so I matched it, and we're going to give the gift card to both of them.
Yeah,
so I know who both of them are. Yep.
But two $25 gift cards going out to Franco Salandro and Richie SW, I think was the YouTube name. So congratulations, guys.
Congratulations to you both. Hopefully you'll listen to this. And you keep listening, like, comment, all that good stuff. When you get the cards, like, comment, all that good stuff.
Yeah. By the way, we tell you to like and comment all the time. One of the things that actually helps us out a lot is if you subscribe. And I was looking at the analytics for the last couple of weeks, and while there's a ton of people that watch the video, only 40 or 50%, like 46 or 47% of all of our viewers are subscribers. So we actually have half of our audience watches the video but doesn't subscribe. So if you are watching the video on YouTube and you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and basically they'll just notify you every time we publish a new episode, which is pretty much every Monday.
Yeah. So finishing up the one crazy question, how much money would you spend? How about like something like how far would you go to prove you were right? Right? It doesn't necessarily need to be next week's question. I don't know if you want to talk about it now, or do you want to use that as a tease for next week?
No, we can talk about it now. I mean, we've got some time left. The funny thing is, this brings me back to our childhood, because before the Google, you and I would constantly disagree on stuff, and we would have to leave for the day not knowing which one of us would write. Was right. So I would say, oh, no, it's this. And you would say, no, it's that. And we would be like, and that was it. Nowadays, you can pretty much settle an argument. Although I will tell you this, the last couple of years, and this is part of the reason why I find human beings so damn dumb sometimes, is we have objective truths now, and then we have subjective truths, right? So there are facts, and then there are things that cannot be proven true or false. And because of that nature, people kind of line up behind them and say, hey, this is true, prove it false. You can't. So
are you going to go on about QAnon again?
No, I'm not going there, but it's, people always say I'm the asshole. These are some of the things that absolutely trigger me, is when people talk about, things that there's no science behind them, but it's somebody's subjective truth. And it just, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, let's stop talking now, because this is going absolutely nowhere.
All right. So back to my question, which that QAnon diatribe had nothing to do with my question. How far would you go to prove you were right? So let me give you an example.
I don't think you need to go. I don't think you need to go anywhere, because if we're talking facts and factual information, let me Google that for you. Done.
Okay, I'm going to give mine then.
Don't need to go far.
I'm going to give mine then. I want you to stop talking about QAnon. You're backdooring QAnon here is what you're trying to do. All right. I'll give you an example of what I
Go ahead.
So as you know, me and my sister haven't talked in 14, 15 years now.
Decades, yeah.
Yeah. So we've had a huge falling out. Whatever the reason, doesn't matter. My brother-in-law, her husband, who's always been relatively a piece of shit, I put him in the same category as USPS and Philly. So he, at one point, I was the godchild of one of their kids.
Hold on, can I stop you right there?
Sure.
Brother-in-law, if you're listening, please don't forget to like and subscribe.
And share. Episode 2 and 7, tell your ride our hat, whatever, and you can get a gift card too. So he at some point sends me a letter, and email's fully functional. Everybody uses it now. He sends me a letter in the mail that says something to the effect of, I know we can't take away you as a godparent and with the church, but in our view, we're removing you as a godparent. And this was right in the beginning.
Okay. Yeah,
when we were having the falling out. So it wasn't like, 7 years later.
That's some pretty fucked up shit. Right. That's some deep shit that you can't take back.
So his letter was like a paragraph or two. I respond a paragraph or two, and I'm like, I find it funny that you think you're kind of removing me from the process now. I said, you guys have basically removed me from the process already. I'm like, I get told about birthday parties like an hour before it's going to happen. I'm like, every time I try to come over or call you to make plans, you guys are busy. I'm like, so you've been giving me the runaround as it is for a long time anyway. As I said, he wrote a paragraph. I wrote a paragraph. And I said a couple of things within this letter, something to the effect of the girls, because my sister has 4 girls, so everybody calls them the girls. Just like one of my other families has 4 boys, everybody calls them the boys. Like, that's just the fucking way it is. It's not derogatory. It's not casting them off. It's just what people do. Just like if you're a twin, people go the twins, right? Like, it's what people say.
Right.
1 paragraph from him, 1 paragraph from me. He writes back, 5-page letter. And within that letter, he breaks down every single word that I said in my paragraph. So where I said something like, I try to come over for birthday parties and et cetera, he writes quite a few lines on, you don't call, we don't see you, you don't do this, you don't do that. Everything had an answer to it.
Is any of that true?
So not only is it not true, now going back to my question, not QAnon, my question, what would you do to prove you were right? I call up my cell phone company. I would like because I haven't had a home phone in years. Mm-hmm. I would like the last 5 years of my bills, please. And they're like, well, 1 year we can give you for free. Well, maybe this answers your money question too. 1 year they give it to me. They're like, we can give you free. The other years cost you a couple bucks. I don't remember what it was. But it was like $10-15 to get all of them. I get 5 years of records sent to me, printed and sent to me in the mail. I sit down. One birthday is this day. Highlight the call from me to them in my log. One birthday's here. Highlight the call. Christmas, highlight the call. Thanksgiving,
You're such a
highlight
petty
the
bitch.
call. Yeah. So I end up sending back about 10 pages. And I'm like, oh, I got your letter. I can appreciate it, but here's the facts. So he actually returns it to me. He doesn't open it. He sends me another letter that says, I'm done with you. He's like, if you send me any more letters, I'm going to call the police and say you're harassing me, which I don't need Google to let you know this, that harassment does not start if you reach out to me first.
Yes.
I'm not now harassing you, answering your questions.
Letters are optional. You don't have to open them. There's no way that's harassment.
So he returned it to me and he didn't open it. So I put it in a new envelope with no return address, drove 45 minutes away to another state, dropped it in the mail there so it would get stamped with a different state than mine, and sent it to him. He returned that one again with a letter that says, I opened your letter only because you weren't man enough to put your return address on it, and I didn't know it was yours. He's like, but I didn't read it. I don't care if you read it or not. My point was made, so that is how far I will go to prove a point that I was right.
So you're stubborn and petty is what you're saying.
Yes. And small-minded and dumb. That's okay.
No, I actually think that's pretty funny. I think you did that just so you would have a joke to tell on a future episode of the podcast.
Yeah, it's like, if I ever start a podcast and it's not about kissing a Sasquatch, I'm going to tell this story.
They were called what? What were they called back then? Talk shows. This is a modern day talk show.
Yes. All right. So I got something from the joke vault here.
Oh, okay. Are we there yet?
Yeah.
No. We can't do the joke vault yet. One, we have a few minutes, but two, we teased last week that we would talk about the best places we have ever been.
Yeah, shit, forgot about
that. We can't forget about that. So I'll go first. I have a couple that are just, that I love for their scenery and their just sheer gorgeousness. Belize was one of them. Went to Belize a long time ago, and definitely a third world country, but tropical as all get out and just absolutely stunning.
We've now lost Belize.
Well, I mean, it's just living in America for your entire life. When you're no longer in Kansas, right? You get somewhere and you're like, okay, I guess paved roads aren't a thing, and I guess flat dirt roads aren't a thing. Everybody's got 4x4s out here, so that tells me something about their infrastructure. But so Belize was definitely top of the list, and I definitely want to go back there. And I'm wearing my Colorado hat in today's episode for a very specific reason. My favorite place in the world right now is the state of Colorado. Every time my wife and I have gone there, we just continue to fall in love with that place. So much so that once my kids empty nest, we are probably going to find a place out there and move out there. So Colorado is high on my list. Love the mountains. Love having 4 seasons, which I do not get in Arizona. I get a season and a half at best, and it's just hotter and hot.
Yes, so, I've told you before, you've talked about how you're, in essence, kind of like retiring to Colorado, which to me is so hustling backwards, right? Normally people go from wherever they are, which has cold weather and stuff like that, to someplace like Arizona. You're going from Arizona, where you spent the last, it'll be 30 years at that time, to go to a place that has cold weather. It just makes no sense.
Well, so Denver's actually fairly mild. When you think of Colorado, you think of Mile High, you think of the mountains, you think of skiing, you think of the Rockies, you think of all that shit, right? Denver, and we're looking in the Denver area. In a February, it'll be minus 15. Actually, no, it'll never be that cold. It'll be 15 degrees out, and then 5 days later, it'll be 65. Like, it's fairly mild. If you look at the averages throughout the year, it's pretty consistent. Also, unfortunately, same thing in the summer, right? You'll get a 95 degree day, but then you'll get a 55 degree day in the summer in the middle of August for no strange reason, right? It's the way that it is. But I'm tired of, and don't get me wrong, I love the state of Arizona, but I'm tired of when everybody else around the entire country is getting excited because it's spring and it's summertime. Everybody in Phoenix is basically packing up their shit and either going to a colder climate or preparing to hibernate for the summer, because there is no going outside in July, right? There's no going outside in August. Yeah, you have a pool, but you go out in the pool, 5 minutes, you're in the pool, it's too hot, I'm coming back in, because the water is 105 degrees out without a heater. So it's just, it gets old. People like to retire here, fine. It's just not my cup of tea.
See, this is all coming from a guy who didn't spend last week shoveling 3 feet of snow like we had.
I did not.
Where I live.
Did not.
So for me, the best place that I've ever been, ironically, is Philly. No, I'm kidding. Fuck you, Philly.
Fuck you, Philly.
I had to get one of those in this week.
Yeah.
So mine is kind of two things, and I don't think these are surprises. These are probably on a lot of people's bucket lists, places to go, things like that. So one was I went to the Great Wall of China, and we went to they've repaired an area.
What part of the Great Wall? It's a big fucking wall. You didn't do the whole thing.
No.
You know, like
we
what
went
part?
To a part. It's fucking 5,000 miles. Oh, it was mile 7 to mile 7.5. I don't know. Fucking part of the wall. Everything was in Chinese. How am I supposed to know where the fuck I was?
Fuck you, China.
So we went, and where they bring you to like a touristy spot, which is the wall's been fully repaired. And then they also bring you to another area where it hasn't been repaired. So you can see both sides of it. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, at one point, we go to the top and you can overlook and you get this amazing view of just mountains everywhere. And you see the fucking wall across the top of the mountains.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
awesome.
have no fucking idea how they got it up there, right? This isn't like modern construction stuff done recently. This is years ago. And so that was just it truly was
like thousands of years ago, not just a few years ago.
I wasn't sure how many, so I didn't want to throw out a number, but thank you for that.
Yeah, we're talking BC.
Yeah. So, I hope you're wrong. Google people, please. Google Army, get on him. I hope he's wrong.
I probably am wrong on that. I don't know.
I hope
the
it was like
exact
1930. No, I'm kidding.
No, it definitely wasn't 1930.
I didn't know how long, so I wanted to stay away from that.
No, it's during one of the dynasties, so it's hundreds, if not thousands of years ago.
So the show that was on in the 80s. I just aged myself. So the sheer spectacle of it, the sheer volume of it, it was great is in that term for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was amazing. Then the other side of, so that's, you got to go up mountains and you're seeing the top of the walls and all that stuff. The other side's actually down in the water. So when we were in Australia, my wife and I, before we came home in 2006, I think we might have went for Christmas 2005. We actually went to the Great Barrier Reef. I only seem to like things that have the word great in it. So if anybody else has any other recommendations, that'll be fine. And so what they do there is, it's actually interesting, is on the boat ride out, and again, I get really seasick on boats, so I'm not a big fan of it anyway, so I was on a shitload of medicine. But on the boat ride out, they certify you in scuba diving. Not like, 500 feet under or however far the real like scuba divers going.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, enough that you can go under and you can wear the scuba gear, you go down a rope and you can see the coral reef and all that stuff. So my wife just struggled with it. She couldn't do it. She ended up just snorkeling on top of the water. She couldn't handle, she kept panicking in essence when she went underwater too far and she just didn't want to do it. So I did that. It was just the view of it, the water, how clear it is, the reef, all that stuff was amazing. So those have been the two best places that I think I've ever been to.
Very cool.
Yeah, so those were really, really nice. We should get some tourism board sponsorship. I'm relatively sure Belize won't after you call me a third world country.
But Philly probably will.
Philly, please reach out to us.
All right, joke of the week. Sorry, the joke vault.
The joke vault. So this is a little bit of a story/joke. Now, I have to tell this part of it before I read this joke. Because after reading this joke, I was like, oof. It's important to know that I have never been high in my life. I have never done hard drugs. Never. I actually tried pot once, literally once my whole life.
I was there.
I wasn't going to say that. That's your choice to say. But yes, took one hit from it, saw everybody else was being a bunch of idiots. It hadn't affected me. And I was like, you know what? This isn't for me. Never did it again. That was it. So I need to tell that because it's very important to this story. Because this story seems like I was fucking zooted out of my mind when I read this. All right. So here we go. This year for... Maybe I'm high now. Let me start again. This year for Christmas, Santa brought me crack vials. But Santa is a little bitch and he whipped out a bong and started smoking it. So, of course, I wanted my Christmas gift, so I hadn't started taking hits on the bong because Santa was clearly going to finish it. We even started sharing it with the reindeers, which they are actually pretty cool, except Comet. Comet's a bitch. So Santa and I ended the night with Comet venison stew. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Oh boy.
So reading this, I'm like, what the fuck? I have no idea I wish I could remember what led to some of these. Like what the fuck happened? Did my dad try to give me venison? Like, I don't know what happened at this point that made me write that joke down, but yeah. That's the joke.
I don't think reindeer and deer are the same meat. It could be. I could be wrong on that.
I don't
Somebody
know,
Google that.
Yeah, you're right, actually. I have no idea.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's
I'm guessing no, though, but who knows? All right. So for next week, it's funny. I thought you came up with this week's one crazy question. So I came up with next week. Clearly, I came up with this week's also. This week, we talked about money that we would spend and how much we would spend for a good joke. Next week, I want to talk about the extreme that you or somebody in your family has gone to save money. And I'm not talking extreme couponers and stuff like that. Just something that you're like, I don't want to pay for this. This is a way around that.
Oh, this is going to be so hard for me. Everybody in my family is a gluttonous fool. I mean, the word save doesn't even enter into our minds. I shouldn't say that, but I'm actually pretty good at it. But I mean, just throughout the decades of my family history, I can't think of a single story where someone tried to actually save money.
Well, you know what we can do? We can save that story for next week.
Save. I see what you did there.
Yeah. I'm Michael Carter.
And I'm David Michael.
And we are
Ridiculously bored.